So this is an explanation of how the IAs are marked. So Mr. Banham, Mr. Gandhi, Mr. Green, and myself have kind of tried to break down these descriptors so you have a better idea of what's expected. First couple of things that we mentioned up here. Titles of your diagrams, as long as they're under 10 words, don't count in your word count. And annotations of 4 words or less don't fit in your word count. So, for example, if you have below your diagram a little bit of a key to explain what key things are, those don't count as long as they're 4 words or less. So I'll just give you an example of that. So examples, any of your labels, as long as they're 4 words or less, these keys that you put off to the side where you're kind of explaining the diagram, those don't count. And as long as this label is 10 words or less, that doesn't count as well. So that's just a way to save some words in your word count. So that's just something to think about with your word count. Another area where you can save some words is when you are applying things from the article. When you do line references and citations, those don't count as well. So just a couple of things just to start. So just reminding you, when you're doing your diagrams, we highly recommend a clear title and annotations. Those will help you to explain the diagram with very few words in your actual commentary. What we've done is we've kind of described the top grade boundary. So one thing we want you to think about is that your diagrams need to be carefully chosen so that you're explaining the theory that best relates to that article. So it's really important that you don't jump around all over the place with different diagrams. They need to be kind of logically thought out. So if I have something that has an externality, my first diagram should explain the theory, and then as I go through, my other diagrams will explain what's going on in the news article and how that's altering my original diagram. Another thing we said here is you should have specific labels if they're given from the article. For example, correct units. If it's in gallons, that's your quantities in gallons, or packs, or whatever it is. And your price should be in the price of the country that you're looking at. The other thing is to make sure the quality of your scans are really clear so that the examiner doesn't lose anything because the scan is not high quality. The next bit is terminology. You need to make sure that your definitions aren't randomly put in here, that you're looking at the most critical parts in your work. You need to use terms obviously correctly throughout. And if you use the terms well, you really don't have to have a ton of definitions or explanations written out. And I would consider putting these in bold so you can show the examiner which words you think are the most important to understand this commentary, and that you've explained the ones that need to be explained. The next part is the application. And so this is really critical that you have correct line references. We would recommend that you have at least 3 parts where you mention specific lines in your commentary. We don't recommend big quotes because that's taking a lot of words out. But you need to be connected to the article throughout. And we would expect these referring to the article not just to happen at the beginning of the commentary, but in each section. So when you look through your commentary to see if you've done that well, you should see that you referred to lines of the commentary at least 3 times, and that that's done throughout the commentary. The analysis bit is really looking, do you understand causation? So can you read the article and understand if your diagram needs to be shifted or altered? And if so, do you know the correct way it's going to move? And can you explain that to the examiner that you know why something has moved the way it has? So really, this is very well tied to your diagrams. Your diagrams obviously need to be correctly drawn, but they also need to be correctly moved. And that's where these points come in. So I would really expect that a student, if there is something that's shifted, that they're using specific vocabulary to explain the shift. if their diagram is very elastic or inelastic, they're explaining why they've drawn that. Is there anything in the text that's helped them to come to that conclusion? That's the causation, right? So if you're making an argument, you need to be able to justify why you have done what you've done. And this is the hardest one. This is the evaluation. And we wrote this in here. Rarely do we ever see a 4 out of 4 here. But when we do, what's happened is the student has collected an article that really has a debatable topic, something where maybe in the article they have someone arguing one side of the story and one arguing the other. And what a really good evaluation will do is this person will not just explain these arguments, but actually often take a side or explain the weaknesses in the way the article was written. So it goes beyond just explaining what the article is saying, but actually being very critical of the information and trying to explain kind of the real world connections. So as you can see, that's kind of the high. You always need to refer to evidence that you can see in your article to support your ideas. So this is where you really need to connect back to the article and not go away from the article. Where we start to get the 2 and the 1 here is that people are making arguments without support. They're saying, oh, they're winners and losers, but they're not really connecting that to what they actually read in the article. So it's really, really critical that you stay connected to the article throughout.